Hey everyone, Brayden here coming to you with a couple hot off the presses breaking Disney news updates. The first one I think a lot of us have been expecting for quite a while now and kept expecting and finally Disney has called it the Star Wars Hotel, branded as the Galactic Starcruiser at Walt Disney World, an immersive cruise on land type experience where the theme was you'd head into outer space for a several days long adventure. It is permanently closing heading into October 1st, with the final voyage set to take place from September 28th through the 30th. October 1st is a significant date as it's when we saw Walt Disney World open. Of course, all the anniversaries take place on October 1st as a result. We often see a lot of things open and close around October 1st at Walt Disney World. New shows closing, new rides, all sorts of things like that. Why is that? Well, the reason why is because that is the first day of Disney's new fiscal year every year. So there is no doubt a lot of accounting behind Disney's decision to shut down the Star Wars Hotel when they are. The Galactic Starcruiser, it's going to complete its final voyage inside of this fiscal year 2023, and then I assume in fiscal year 2024, Disney will be able to reap all sorts of tax benefits by realizing depreciation and all these bad investments they've made, as they're doing right now with Harmonious, which is one of the most expensive live entertainment projects Disney's ever done, which ended up only lasting a year and a half before they shut it down and began tearing apart the infrastructure that cost many millions of dollars. Also, of course, you have what I believe are equity actors that work on the Starcruiser, so all of those cast members being laid off or moved to other areas, obviously that'll show some cost savings going into the fiscal year next year, which of course Iger's all about, who's now back in the CEO spot. There's a lot of talk about saving money, cutting down on labor, doing what they can to cut down on operational expenses. So doing a post-mortem on the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser, I personally never experienced it. I'm sure most of you watching did not as well. And I think that's primarily due to the cost. A lot of folks who experienced it, they really enjoyed the Starcruiser, and a very small subset of the people who went on the Starcruiser who were rabid Galactic Starcruiser fans, they would criticize people who were criticizing it online saying, oh, you're just poor or something like that. And I really don't think that's the case. I don't think it's a matter of people literally not having $5,000. Disney fans, many watching right now, spend several times that at Disney, even on an annual basis. So the issue from the start here, I think it was the value proposition. It's not even the price in and of itself, although that is a huge issue. It's what you're getting for the price. I think a lot of people look at it and they say, well, that's nice, but I can't afford it. As in, I'm not putting what, for many people is a month's pay into staying 2 nights in a highly themed warehouse, themed to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where you stay in a windowless pod room. And I know I'm kind of bashing it there, but I want to get these points out of the way right away here, because that to me is why this idea was destined to fail. Imagineering did do some really cool stuff here. In a lot of ways, we've said how the Galactic Starcruiser, many features of it are things that we should have gotten with Galaxy's Edge, and Galaxy's Edge would have been a lot better, but due to cost reasons, Disney wanted these ultra high paying guests to be committing money to experiencing these sort of things, having all these actors around, all this sort of interaction, being part of a Star Wars story, a Star Wars adventure. It was no doubt something that was very experimental and very aspirational on Imagineering's part. Also, the actors and the actresses, they really had to put their heart and soul into this, as it was an all-day activity. It's like you're on stage all day with constant interaction with the guests. You have to get to know the guests, you have to make the guests part of the story, you have to know which guests are resistance or first order or all this. It had to be pretty grating on those actors and actresses. They had to do a lot of work there and really be committed. Disney definitely demanded a lot of those guys, so hats off to them. It's a pretty remarkable thing that Imagineering built here, regardless of what you think about the price of it, which was pretty insane. Some aspects of this thing were laughable, some aspects were very impressive, but now, October 1st, it'll be no more. And to the credit of the Galactic Starcruiser, Starcruiser, it did take a little longer to fail than I thought it would. You guys might recall right here on this channel, before the Starcruiser even set sail, I made a video calling the Galactic Starcruiser a galactic failure, a huge waste of money on Disney's part, terribly priced, destined to fail. I thought it would fail inside of a year, and it did turn out to be true that the Galactic Starcruiser did fail, but it did last. It's going to have ended up lasting a year and a half or so, which was a little longer than I thought it would. Now, part of the reason that I thought that this would be a failure, which I think is one of the major contributing factors, is Disney really boxed themselves in. They gave themselves almost no flexibility here. No one ever asked the question of, what if this is a galactic failure and we need to adapt in some way? Can we lower the price? Something like that. And I think the answer is they really couldn't lower the price tag very much, because what you have is a low capacity hotel essentially, and many of those rooms aren't getting booked at all. So you also have low booking volume. So what that means is the few guests that are actually on the voyage, they have to be paying full price, or else Disney's going to be losing money, because this experience costs Disney a lot more money to run than, say, any regular hotel, with all the equity actors and a lot of cast members that are being paid several orders of magnitude more on an hourly basis than your average cast member. So when people say, oh, Disney should have just lowered the price to $2K, they really couldn't do that because they'd be operating in the red. It is very likely that they'd be operating in the red. So the question now becomes, what happens to this building? It is so purpose-built for something Disney is now abandoning, that they're now permanently closing. You know, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, make it into a regular hotel. Does anyone want a windowless Star Wars hotel? Maybe, but the number of rooms you have here isn't very many. So think about all the support staff that you'll need to have because it's a hotel. Is that going to be worth it on Disney's end? The cost is still going to have to be pretty high, even if you just make it into more of a hotel experience, get rid of the actors. So it'll be interesting to see what Disney does here. Do they just take the depreciation and just, you know, waste the entire place, just knock the whole thing down, rip it all apart like they did with Harmonious, or do they try to repurpose it? It's really a question of what they're going to do there. I think it would be a crime to waste all of that theming that Imagineering put in there. There has to be a way to adapt this into something else, like a actual Star Wars hotel, which is what Disney originally focus grouped, and was something that many of us thought sounded pretty interesting. So maybe Disney should try something like that, but they probably need to add more rooms. I think they need to expand the building in some way to really make that economically feasible for them. So I think that's going to be the difficulty with that. We will see. The second breaking Disney news update I have for you guys is Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro finally releasing a statement that I think we've been expecting for a while here regarding the Lake Nona project. Disney is officially abandoning the project. For those of you who don't know, the Lake Nona project was previous CEO Bob Chapek's plan to build a new Disney headquarters inside of Florida, in Lake Nona, a very nice planned community that is up and coming that you have near the airport in Orlando. It's a beautiful area. We made a video here on the channel about 2 years ago taking a look at where this office was going to go, the land that Disney acquired. The media is spinning this cancellation as being due to DeSantis and the hostile business environment, which he helped to create with Disney. The reason I'm skeptical that DeSantis really had so much to do with this cancellation is because, you know, we know people in high places. You guys have seen some of the stories we've broken here on the channel in the past. I've been hearing for months that this is just a Chapek era project that Iger wants nothing to do with. Look at how fast all these Chapek era projects are just crumbling, turning to dust. You know, the reality is that Disney has huge bills coming due on the streaming side. They're having issues on the earnings side of things, paying to build a big new campus, a big new headquarters in Florida, making people move from California, which is very unpopular internally and part of why Chapek was so unpopular inside the company. Iger's wiping his hands clean of this whole thing. I don't think the business environment in Florida is really that hostile when it comes to Disney building this new campus, because DeSantis, I don't think he could really touch this thing a whole lot. Disney's already secured an enormous tax discount from Florida in exchange for building this campus. So they already got that through, regardless of what DeSantis thinks of it. And also, it's not part of Reedy Creek. It's way on the other side of town, part of a planned community that's on good terms with state officials. Disney already owns the land. So really, what would DeSantis do anyways? You know what I mean? I think the primary reason is not having anything to do with the current politics in Florida, but rather the fact that the guy who is driving the project, Chapek, is gone. We know that Iger doesn't like Chapek. He doesn't want to do Chapek's projects. And then secondly, employees don't want this, and also Disney sizing down their managerial positions, which would be the people occupying those offices. A lot of them, unfortunately, are being laid off right now. And ultimately, Disney doesn't have the money to spare at the moment for something like this, which is a non-essential expense, sort of a long-term plan that Chapek had. It was an interesting plan that Chapek had here. It was a long-term cost savings measure, in my opinion. Basically, I think the reason why Chapek wanted Imagineering in Florida is it would allow them to get cheaper Imagineers. Essentially, they'd be able to hire out of some of the art schools we have down here, make Imagineering even more of a revolving door where they recruit students and they say, hey, you can put Imagineering on your resume, and they're in and out, they do an internship and then they're on to other things. Basically a way to farm a lot of talent, get a lot of kids, to get some work done on the cheap. And I think that was part of the plan there for sure, versus doing it all out in California. We know that Chapek was forcing out a lot of the older Imagineers, a lot of the more tenured Imagineers really did not seem to like Imagineering. Iger seems to be much more receptive insofar as Imagineering is concerned, which is one thing that I really do like about Bob Iger being back in charge, is he actually lets creative do their thing, which is not just a talking point. Iger actually does seem pretty open to Imagineers putting out interesting ideas, not to the same extent as we saw under Eisner, or especially, compared to Walt or Roy or Card Walker or any of the original guys, the original CEOs. It's definitely been a decline over time, but Iger definitely is a little better on that front than Chapek. But ultimately, I really think it just comes down to cost. Disney has some big problems on the studio side right now, and the endless gravy on the park side, it is starting to show signs of weakness. Booking volumes at Walt Disney World, we've been hearing from cast members at the resort hotels, they are down. And all of a sudden, you've probably noticed Disney's announcing all sorts of big discounts on everything from tickets. I saw they have like $58 tickets for locals or something as part of the 4-day ticket package discount now. And then of course you have like the hotels and the hotel packages and the dining plan. All of a sudden Disney seems to be interested in giving us a good deal. It really makes you wonder why. I think we know. So that's the latest news today. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on. Thank you so much for watching. From the Mickey Mouse Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Have a magical day.